Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Fix It in Post podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Pring. I am a compositor based in Australia, and let's get straight into it. I'm going to try and keep this one a little shorter than the last episode. I got a bit carried away looking at Fantastic Four, and that episode ended up being 2 hours long. So we're going to try and avoid that this week, but who knows? This is another one of my visually favourite movies of the last few years. Dune Part 2 in particular is my favourite movie of all time, both in story and visuals. So, as I just said, we're looking at the Dune movies today. Very excited. Dune Messiah is filming at the moment, I believe, at the time of recording this. So it's just I'm hyped, man. I love these movies so much. They're not for everyone. I understand that. Definitely has its haters, and there definitely has some valid criticisms. But to me, they're fantastic. And in terms of visuals, like the planning and execution of the VFX, like borderline perfect, like 99.9%. And I'll get into all that, and I'll get into the flaws at some point. So let's just jump into it. Actually, before we do, I do just want to say. Preface this episode with this is a primarily visual podcast, as I'm sure a lot of you have gathered. We're looking at things, we're breaking them down. You know, that's the whole point of my channel, is breaking down compositing and all that sort of stuff. And I just want to make that clear. If you're an audio listener, fair enough. I appreciate you still tuning in, but you will hear a lot of vague terms like this part here, this element, this sort of stuff, like all that, those sort of terms, you will be hearing them quite a bit, because in the moment I'm going to be just looking at it and pointing at things and circling things. I'm going to forget to describe it. So, just keep that in mind. If you want to listen in terms of, like, if you want to listen to the audio version, feel free, go ahead. I appreciate you. But if you want to follow along fully, feel free to tune into the video version. So, now let's actually jump into it. We're going to be starting with the sandworm riding scene in Dune Part 2. One of the best scenes in the movie, easily. The tension is insane. The execution is fantastic. And it's just super good overall. So I'll just play it in the background while we keep chatting a little bit. Just until we get to a bit more of a stable spot so I can showcase some of the behind-the-scenes stuff. But, yeah, there's probably a good spot soon. So, digging the hooks in there. And this is one of the more impressive, not only impressive moments in terms of, like, the character and his story, because, riding the sandworm is impressive. Okay, that's a really good shot to end it on. But it's also just an impressive execution of it all. And it really showcases what VFX, CG, and comp, what they can all achieve when working underneath a director that has not only planned it out but knows what he's doing. And so I just wanted to highlight that because it's one of the biggest praises I can give the movie. Whether you like it or not, I know some people do, some people don't. Some people like the books, some people like the movies. I like both, whatever. Whether you like this or not, it's kind of an objective fact that this is arguably, actually, not even really arguably, this is just straight up one of the best and most well-planned movies, or duology of movies, I guess, in terms of VFX, like, maybe ever. Like, so much thought went into it. The people who were making it, Denis Villeneuve, I think that's how you pronounce his name, the director, for those of you who don't know, he clearly just fully understands the pipeline and fully understands the limitations and capabilities of each department, to the point where you would almost think he worked in VFX before becoming a director. Now, look, that could be the case. I don't know, but it feels that way. Like, it feels like he just understands it, So, what we're going to do is we're going to break down this shot right here. And I've got a behind-the-scenes sort of screenshot or featurette from the DVDs, I'd imagine, and it shows the setup that they used. Now, as you can see, a lot of it is practical. It's really, really good. And this is the sort of practical that I love, where it's like, obviously, no one's going into this sort of expecting, no, we're going to do it all practical. We're going to build a full-scale sandworm and we're going to drag it through the desert. No one's expecting that. Even audiences know that so much CGI is used. But I feel like people see this and they go, wow, that was practical? And their mind just wipes everything else to do with it. I don't know why, that just seems to be the case. So, we look at this setup. We've got the practical wind tunnel, which is obviously, shooting wind this way to, sell the movement that he's actually traveling at a really high speed because, believe it or not, CG can't do everything. I know that probably seems counterintuitive to what I'm preaching on this channel, but obviously it can't. And cloth simulations are pretty easy to spot if you know what you're looking for. So they get the practical wind. Sweet. That way they can also throw dust up if they need to. Although, I know they did some, but I highly doubt practical dust and sand would have been a normal thing on this set. Because not only is it unpredictable, it's also just messy. It takes, a lot of time to clean up, more manpower to manage, more planning to kind of integrate it properly. And it's just like, look, that's the sort of thing where compositing can just do that. They can just grab an element if they need to. If it's like a foreground one and it's out of focus, bam, chuck an element in. Or if you want something super directable, you want something super unique, just get the VFX team to do it. Get a Houdini sim going. And so that's something where they definitely did use it because I have seen them using it. But that is probably something in this film that was maybe overhyped a little bit in terms of, wow, they did so much practical. It's like they wouldn't have used the practical sand as much as people probably say. But regardless of that, they have the wind tunnel to get the movement and sell that movement. And lovely. That's just funny. 8 minutes. And so you have him holding these, which is, actually attached to this big base thing, sandworm, skin, scales, whatever you want to call them. And instantly, that does most of the work to make a shot feel real, even if these get replaced. Even if these get replaced, and this gets replaced, fully CG, whatever, he might even get replaced. If you have this basis and you kind of know what you're basing it off from the very start, instantly makes it feel so much more real. That's why, last week I was talking about The Thing and how they had that practical suit with, the sort of sculpted thing head, and in some of the shots, I wasn't even able to tell, is that the practical suit or is that just the CG? And the reason for that is because if you have that reference, even if it gets fully replaced, it's like, well, okay, you know what it looks like when it's real, so you just match it to that. And it carries so much of the weight, and it improves the result so much more. So that's why you see a lot of the time, another example from Fantastic Four last week, they had the suit for Rolf Ineson, I believe his name is, who plays Galactus. They had that suit built. It was a full suit. He could wear it. I think they shot some stuff with him. None of it made it to the movie, but the VFX team would come in and be like, okay, this is what it looks like. Okay, let's just do that. Let's match it to that the best we possibly can. And so it's the best way to go. This scene, especially for the wide shots, it is most definitely all CG. Not the close-ups. They'd be practical. And even this shot here, we see that in the movie. This is exactly what it looks like. That's practical. I'm not saying he got replaced in this scene. I'm just saying a lot of the shots would be full CG, but because they shot all this stuff instantly, much more grounded in reality and easier to kind of achieve the look you're going for. So, another thing to point out real quick is the background. So as you can see, there's no green screens, there's no blue screens. It's not just an open field. It's a very intentional choice. It's almost like a sand dune in and of itself, even though he's meant to be moving. But if I was given this shot, uh, instantly, I don't have to worry about despill. Instantly, I don't have to worry about color matching because we know what that specific color would look like in the camera. And again, like I was saying with having him standing on this little platform and having the wind and stuff, it's like, okay, that just does 90% of my job because I don't have to do it by eye. I don't have to guess. I just instantly know because it's in camera. And that's what they did here. That's one of the biggest things. So if we have a look here, this whole section, this is probably, I'd imagine, either 360 or 180 inverted dome sort of vibe going on. And the reason you would do that is because you can shoot from multiple angles, as you can see over here, between these sections, from here to here, the sunlight changes. So you can see what it looks like in the shade and what it looks like in the direct sun. And that's just great reference for everything. And, having that versatility means you can shoot multiple angles, all you'd have to do is spin this around, spin it around whatever direction you need it to go. Bam, you get a different angle of lighting because they're being lit by the sun. And that is another big thing as well, which I'll touch on briefly in a second. But what they did, right, is they implemented something they called sand screens, which it is just, I don't know. I have a lot of respect for whoever's idea this was. Because the thing is with these big budget movies, you don't really actually key things, like I was saying in the last episode. Especially, stuff like the MCU. The blue screens and green screens are just for show. They're just for bash comps, they're just to get an idea, but every single shot is going to be rotoed anyway. Like, even if you could key it, it's going to be rotoed. So what they've done is they've taken this here, which they've put the tracking markers on just like you would a blue screen. They've set it up just like you would a blue screen or green screen, but they've made it, the color of sand. And the reason for that is because if you have a look here, all the bounce light, let's zoom in here. All this bounce light here has a brown shade to it. Their faces have that brown sort of bounce light shade to it. There's no blue spill. There's no green spill. It's just the colors are automatically matching. If it's going to be rotoed anyway, then why does it matter if it's not a green screen? Again, doing what they were doing with the sandworm scene, they're just kind of helping themselves out by doing most of the work. Like, all these things are really easy to do on a smaller scale. Like, you can despill something easy. I did it for the Void shot, the Thunderbolts Void shot. I had to despill the lady crawling, close to the camera. I had to despill her like crazy because there was this big blue light on her that I didn't want in, so I had to remove that using despill. I had to despill the spill from the screens. I had to despill some weird stuff in her hair. And it's easy enough to do, and it's achievable, and it's quick, and it's not hard. But when you don't have to do it, it adds up, especially on a movie like this where every single shot is a comp shot. That's going to add up so quickly. And it also just okay, it's accurate. It's based in real life because it is real life. They are getting this bounce light. You cannot argue with that. It's okay, that's what it's meant to be. Sweet, let's match to that. Now, here's another example of that. A much more drastic sort of example. But, you could have used a green screen here. With how small he ends up being in the frame, it's not necessary to do this sort of sand screen method. But in doing that, again, it's just one extra step taken out of it. Now, this isn't the best example, but it's kind of one of the main ones I could find, apart from this one, that kind of showcase it in a different light. And, he's not getting hit by the sun. They planned for where the building was going to be. They're like, yeah, okay, he's not going to be getting hit by the sun. And from an edge light perspective anyway, he's getting hit by the sun sort of fully front on. They had the one palm tree there, which is quite funny. You can tell it's the same tree, but I'm like, did that need to be there? Like, I don't know. That just seems a bit silly. You could have just put that in CG. This whole shot is CG. You might as well just do that. Apart from the ground and him, obviously. But yeah, no, it's just a really cool tactic that, especially when AI tools become way more accessible for things like roto. Like this is going to be how like the good people, like whether they're indie or in the industry, this is going to be how they tackle shots like this, because if I didn't have to roto three individual characters, I would do it like this if I was doing a Dune shot. Of course I would. Not only is that not only is it how they actually did it, but it's also like the methodology is correct. It gives the best results. You still have the tracking markers, like I said. You still have all this stuff, but it's like if they're being rotated anyway, you don't need to worry about how good it can key. So you can have all of these creases here. You can have all that sort of stuff, and then just like a slight edge extend maybe, and you're good to go. It's I don't know. I love it. I think it's just like really. I'm sure other films have done it before, not as publicly, I'd imagine, but like, yeah, it's revolutionary. I'm confident in saying that. I think it's awesome. But let's actually get back to the shot we're looking at. And you can see, keeping that in mind, you can see sort of what they're going for here when you compare it to the final shot. Actually, now that I think about it, maybe this isn't the final shot. His outfit's very different. At least it looks it. Anyway, I could potentially be wrong. But anyway, let's just keep watching this scene till we get another good shot of it. Obviously, stuff like this is just full CG, no doubt about it. Oh, okay, apart from the people. This would be sorry. I said that just as the people came in. Alright. The people, look, you can kind of see the line. The people are just a plate, and then the rest is full CG. Yeah, that's what I meant by that. Alright, so it goes through. And obviously this isn't something where you would need practical reference. He's can we even get that close? Look at him. You do not need a practical reference for that. This is just a really good, like he's probably not even animated, maybe ever so slightly. It's just like a standing character, default pose sort of thing, with a really good sand simulation and some great comp work. This probably fully practical shot. I don't see any reason why this would need any comp. Let's look at it a bit closer. Yeah. Maybe the sun is added in comp. I don't know. The lighting wouldn't indicate that though. The lighting looks very accurate to the sun being exactly there. Maybe it was supplemented in comp. I don't know. This looks to me like probably a fully practical shot. It's just so simple, you might as well. True, I forgot I could go full screen. Let's do it. Yeah, got some cool stuff. Now, there was some controversy. Controversy, I said. There was some controversy regarding the Fremen's eyes, because when it came out, I don't remember the exact quote, but he was talking about how they used AI to help with the Fremen's eye effect. And people kind of freaked out, because this, keep in mind, when that interview came out, that was when the strikes were going on talking about AI. That's when it was really shooting up into the cultural zeitgeist, and that's when everyone was talking about it. So for him to say that was just really poor wording. But his description of it, it's not AI. That's the one thing where I'm like, maybe he doesn't fully get what we do. I don't know. But he said he said they used AI to help track the eyes, that they would get the eyes, and then replace it with the color corrected version and then put it back in. That, to me, that description, that's all I'm going off. I didn't work on this movie. I don't know anyone that worked on this movie, but that description just sounds like a planar track maybe, or even a single point track. They isolate the eye, color correct it, and then put it back in. That just sounds like a comp job. That doesn't sound like AI at all. That just sounds like tracking. So I don't know if maybe he misunderstood it, or he misspoke, or maybe they did use AI to just replace the eyes. I don't know why he would. It's a very easy effect, but uh, based on his description, that sounds like just a simple comp job. I know that irises are different, so maybe he meant that. Maybe the comp team isolated it, stabilized it, but even then, that's I don't know. That's just a comp job to me. So that's what I believe he meant by that. Whether or not he used AI, it doesn't really bother me. I'm against generative AI for sure, but if they're using AI trained on their own work to help the job of the people creating to make better stuff, I don't see an issue with it. Like I said, before AI was the buzzword that it is, things like, what is it, Merca? Yeah, Merca. That's like that's, at the end of the day, that's basically AI. It looks at the pixels and it tries to track it to the pixels and stick it and cut out the shape that you want and interpret where that shape's going and stuff. Like, technically that's AI. And I don't know, it's just, it's an interesting sort of situation that he put himself in by saying that, because if he did mean they used AI in sort of any way, then I understand the backlash. Especially at the time, it was, if he was genuinely talking about AI, it's a bit insensitive to talk about it, because that's when the strikes were happening. That's when people were like actively fighting against AI and freaking out about it. So for him to just be like, yeah, we used AI, like, yeah, very insensitive. Should have either said it sooner, waited, or just not said it at all. But I don't think he actually meant AI, to be honest. But anyway, I don't want to talk about AI because it's such a hot topic. You can't really win either way, so I'm not going to be talking about that for long. Let's keep going with this scene. Got some great stuff there. So, let's have a look at this. Full CG, obviously. You can even tell it's like you can tell it's rendered. Something about it just has that feeling. But that's obvious. This one here, you can see, kind of looks like it's got some practical sand in it. It probably does, to be honest. Like, it just looks too detailed to be a sim, because if it was a sim, like, why would you bother? I don't know. This feels like this particular bit here, it hits like a certain ray of light, bam, goes up. It looks like it bounces off him properly. Yeah. I mean, as far as I can tell. It does. Yeah, this looks like, for that practical sand that we were talking about. I'd imagine, because you only would see it on him, like you can't see it in the brighter parts. It's probably part of the plate, but the background is still replaced, obviously, because it's just dust and dunes and stuff. So the background will be replaced for sure. But yeah, that looks like practical dust or sand, which is cool. Now these shots here are awesome, I think, anyway. These are super dynamic, like in terms of the composition, but also just like the way it kind of is just executed overall. So obviously, let's get a drawing going. So obviously, where would it be? Somewhere like here, kind of looks like there's a line. Up here, maybe. Obviously, he is there. Bam. Excuse my crude drawings. That's probably what I would imagine is practical. Potentially the lines too, but I have a feeling they're not. Now the only reason I say that is because this stuff here, I don't know how to explain it fully. It has a very nuke defocus node sort of look to it. It doesn't really strike me as actual in-camera defocus, which obviously, it probably wouldn't be, because you would want it to be like super directable and you want to get the timing perfect. So I'd imagine this, if we go around here, I'd imagine this is all just a big CG sort of enhancement, as well as these strings here, which are just probably match moved to, let's Man, I really need to figure this program out because that cursor is really screwing me over. So yeah, as well as them, probably just match move to the real ones. Like they probably shot this in a semi-practical way, but just again replaced all of this stuff here because again you want it to be super directable. You want to have that freedom. If it was practical, very cool. I don't know. It has that vibe to me, and also especially when he pulls it up, it kind of has that sort of CG look to it. Then the background is obviously fully replaced, and then you have all of those smoke elements. Like here, there's a big one. This would obviously be CG too. This bit here, you would extend that and into the background as well. Obviously, you've got some more elements here, and some stuff blowing past him, and then the background, obviously just fully replaced. But I got to be honest, that's going to be the easiest background replacement ever. It's basically just a solid. It's just a constant with maybe like a noise for some difference. But if we play it, I know you can see a lot of stuff being cranked over the top of it. Oh, I did the new cookies accidentally. Lovely. That's funny. That's a cool shot. Yeah, okay. This is a sick shot. I really like this one. Again, same sort of things. All of this here, this skidding across the top of the worm's skin, that would all be a simulation. You wouldn't be able to do that practically. Not to this level, definitely not. This is probably a full CG shot because he's not in it, obviously. So, duh. At that point, it's obviously full CG. I say something sometime, and I'm like, of course. What else would it be? Some great simulation work. This is 100% a matte painting. 3D matte painting, most likely, and then integrated in comp. Really, really good. Fantastic sim. Oh my goodness. Very similar to that one explosion we looked at last week. That just looks so cool. I love that. That's awesome. But yeah, some really cool stuff. It's kind of hard when we're talking about stuff at this level. It's kind of hard to actually find things to talk about because it's all just good. It's like nearly perfect. There's some things you could point out. Like, obviously, this is a simulation, one, because you wouldn't shoot this practically unless it was a miniature, but you can't shoot sand at miniature scale because of the scale. Well, I'm not going to get into that. Maybe one day we'll talk about miniatures and actually like look at something that uses miniatures properly and talk about scale and stuff like that. But obviously, this is just using common sense. This is CG, but you can tell there are certain things to look for, like the smoothness of it all, a real dust puff like that would be much more contrasty. All of this would be black, basically. Obviously, we've got high dynamic range cameras, but all the shadows would be just fully black, and there'd be a lot less going on. I feel this is very much dressed up for the screen, so there's definitely some giveaways. Again, just use common sense. Looking at this shot, it's obviously CG. I'm not trying to debate whether this is CG or practical. I'm just saying, like, beyond that common sense, there's definitely some telltale signs. But yeah, so that was the worm riding scene with some of those behind the scenes stuff. Very, very cool. If we skim through this behind the scenes look, we can probably see some more. There's the sand screens we're telling you about. Yeah. Now, it definitely does... Okay, so that must have been a different scene. I don't know what scene, but here is the scene we just looked at. So this is him, like, actually doing it. Oh, we even got a VFX breakdown. Awesome. I could have just looked at this the whole time. How good is that? That's crazy. Okay. Visual effects progression. Let's full screen this bad boy. So, my thing's lagging. My thing is lagging. Okay. So it looks like they actually shot some of the dune plates, like the desert stuff practically. which is very cool if that's the case. These ones do look real, but it'd be interesting to see if they get replaced. Let's play it back at, say, we'll just do 0.25 speed. Alright, so then we have this, which a lot of breakdowns do this. It's just like the untextured render of it. It doesn't really mean much, because then they go through and they add the texture, and it's like, wow, so much better. They kind of just added the texture. They also added this, which is like a big smoke sim, I guess. Potentially smoke element, which is cool. And then, yeah, so see what I mean? He's fully rotoed anyway. So I was kind of onto something when I was saying, they'd probably replace everything but him, because the ground is fully replaced. You can tell here, this is the early stages, and we're in comp now, so that probably is just a smoke element. Same with all this sort of stuff. Okay, okay, and then we just add 10 million more smoke elements. But looking at this, I think I was also onto something. Let's watch this again. Yeah, okay, so they did replace his hooks. So again, even though they shot it practically, they still replaced them, because if you look at this next slide here, they're back in. And that does make sense. Like I was saying, you want it to be super directable. You want it to just work really well. You don't want it to, like if he had the handle be practical and then the wire not be, it's like there could be a couple issues that go wrong. There can also be a couple issues that go wrong, like if you are replacing it fully, but it's kind of, at a certain point, it's easier to replace something fully than to replace part of something, if that makes sense. So let's keep looking. More smoke, or dust, I should say. And then obviously you have the crop and the grade and stuff. I completely forgot this was part of that shot that we looked at. Oh wait, no it's not. Never mind. Okay, I'm not as silly as I thought. Yeah, anyway. Let's actually... That's quality, we don't need that. Where's it? Playback speed... Normal. Okay, let's actually see if they've got any more VFX breakdowns, because that's super interesting. Yeah, because they've got the physical props, which, they work great. But it's not what is in the final thing. Same with these flags. I doubt they'd be in the final thing. Yeah, keep going. It doesn't look like we got any more VFX stuff. Yeah, no. Alright, let's move on to the next scene. That was cool. I'm glad we got a VFX breakdown. We should definitely look at more of those on future episodes, because, we could go through and do what I just did then and kind of theorize about how it's done and then actually see the layers come together. I think that'd be awesome. But then we got this scene here, which is the worm attack on the Spice Runner. I think that's what it's called. Spice Harvester, the title says. So if we look here, comp reflections, obviously. Now this is the shot that kind of blew everyone away, just because, one, of how good it looks, but also just like the scale of it all is just insane. Like it's done so well, and it's definitely one of the standout shots. So this 100% is using the sand screens that we looked at before. I've seen the behind the scenes like that. I know that for a fact. They're using the sand screens. And then this is obviously full CG. And I believe, from memory, there's like a fair amount of CG replacement of the ship too. So as far as I know, they might just be standing on a platform and the rest is just CG. Similar to the worm, like it was shot in a certain way where you could get that reference and then just fully replaced with CG. And then the simulation on this is insane. The rendering's awesome. You can tell that CG metal, I talked about it last week, it just has a look about it. I don't know if it's like... Because the thing is, VFX, artists, they never light things realistically. Because you can't. It doesn't look pretty. It doesn't look movie. It doesn't look cinematic, And so the lighting is always like very customized, very intentional. And I'm wondering, I don't know, maybe that's why CG metal always has a hard time selling it for me. Because if we go back here, it's just like the way it reflects the light. It just doesn't look how some like I've worked in junkyards and scrapyards and stuff, and I've seen big machinery like that in really harsh sunlight, and it's like it just doesn't look like that. I don't know. It's just yeah, I don't something about it. I don't even know. I'm not a texturing artist, so it's not sort of my forte. It definitely feels a little bit too glossy. I don't know, but at that scale, like, again, don't want to go into things that I'm not actually sort of doing because I'm not a lighting artist. Like I said, I'm not a rendering person. Do they get called rendering artists? I don't even know. But I mainly look at things from compositing, which is why we're breaking down the different elements and the sand screens and despill and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I said it last time with the Fantastica. It's like the CG metal just really sticks out to me. And then obviously you got this huge sandworm mouth, which is just insane. That's so cool. Just seeing the scale, especially because you see them interact with this like multiple times. It's obviously CG the whole time. They didn't build the big spice harvester. They built parts of it, I'm pretty sure. But, because you see them interact with it, when this comes out and eats it whole, and it's like 3 times the size of it in terms of width, it's like, it sells the scale so much. Got some really nice chromatic aberration around the edges here. I like that. Is this a Geordie shot? Potentially. This might be... Did I comp this? Maybe. Maybe I comp this, guys. A little inside joke. Me and my friends, though. But yeah, so swallows it up. Fantastic simulation work. It's... Everything about it is so good. Yeah. Like, there's a reason... Oh, we got an ad. We are not doing that. Get out of that tab immediately. There's a reason this bloody won Best VFX. So, yeah, no, that's awesome. Again, same sort of concepts. Let's see if we can look it up, actually. Dune Sandworm Attack behind the scenes. Going a bit, I don't want to ride the sandworms. But we're going a bit off script here. I wasn't planning on just searching YouTube for things, but at the end of the day, absolute Batman. What's he doing here? What the hell? Okay. We got some behind the scenes. This is yeah, dude, that's something I want to talk about too. This sequence here was really cool. The black and white stuff was awesome. And as far as I know, they use like an infrared camera or something. Let's look it up. So Dune 2 Harkonnen Arena. Do we go behind the scenes? Behind the scenes? Maybe breakdown? No, we don't want extra subtitles. What the hell? We don't want lore. See, this is why you do research beforehand, guys. We can't go off script. If we go off script, it doesn't work. Alright, we're just going to have to look at the scene. But yeah, I'm fairly certain I saw something about them using infrared cameras, I think it was. And then they used that. Obviously, that's just CG. That's nothing. But yeah, they used that to influence the black and white look, and get because they're very particular black and white. It's not just turn down the saturation, although it could be. But it has a particular look about it, you could achieve it other ways, I'm sure. There's probably a matte painting or just full CG. I'd like to think it's a matte painting. I like matte paintings. It's a very underrated sort of art form, I think, is matte paintings. That's why I did one on the channel. I just bloody love them. Let's skip through this. I wasn't particularly wanting to talk about this, but yeah, I'm fairly certain they used infrared cameras. Ooh, the hat. Ugh. Okay, we found a bad shot. We found a bad shot. Okay. That does not look good. I don't know if that's because of the infrared is making that look weird, because sometimes that does happen. I know they did that on Nope, the Jordan Peele movie. they use some sort of, again, I believe it was infrared. I think that's kind of like the predecessor to this, to do all the day for night stuff. That'd be a sick movie to go into in a future episode. Let me know down below if you want me to break that down, because some of the stuff they did for the VFX of that movie were insane. But I don't know if that's what's making this look weird or if this is just a bad key. Let's see how quick the shot is. That'll tell me. Ooh. No, that's just a bad key or a bad comp. Not bad. I don't want to say bad. It's not bad. Like, it works. In motion, you probably wouldn't notice it. But yeah, when you look at stuff like this, like, yeah, that's better. This is cool. Yeah, this is awesome. This is just doing its stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Until we can kind of find out if the infrared stuff is actually something they did or if it's just something I'm making up, there's not much to really say about this scene. It looks cool. People hated this scene when it came out. I don't know why. I think visually it looks great. It's like, it's so different. And I saw this in IMAX. This was my very first IMAX experience. And yeah, this scene in particular was awesome. It was banging, as they say. Very cool shot here. I love this shot. This 100%. There's not a huge amount of parallax. There is a fair bit, actually, now that I look at the audience. But yeah, this camera move is just awesome. I was going to say, if there wasn't much parallax, that probably could just be a really cool matte painting, but no, it probably fully CG. Yeah, that's cool. And then the scene ends, and then we get this little ad for Dune Part 2. I'm not huge on this poster. I don't know, something about it. But yeah, I can't seem to find the behind the scenes for it. I looked breakdown. Maybe if I do look up behind the scenes, maybe that'll give us what we want. No, it's not doing it. I don't know. Okay. There might be something here. I don't know. Ad instantly done. We're not looking at that. Screw ads, man. I hate ads. Stop putting ads on all your stuff. I understand it supports the channel, so we get more stuff. So, and I know if I was running ads on my videos, I wouldn't be saying that. But man, I just want to look at stuff. Let me look at stuff. Easy peasy. So we got another scene here, which I wanted to showcase. It's just got some really cool matte painting work, and like I said before, I love matte paintings, and I just wanted to show some of them off. Well, I assume they're matte paintings. I don't actually know. These could be fully CG for all I know. But, man, I cannot keep track of this mouse. So, everything back here, from here all the way up to here, my guess is that it is a matte painting. It does have a certain CG sort of look to it, but it also looks real enough where I'm like, it could just be like a photo bash matte painting sort of vibe, with just some like comp work over the top that gives it that sort of feeling. I don't know. Obviously, all these people in the foreground here, bam, bam, bam. The first few rows of the soldiers are probably practical too, or like in camera, I should say, not practical. Obviously, people are practical. I'd say that's probably where the line is. It's not neat at all. Then obviously he would have his harness and the bloody wire removal, which is just a cleanup task. That's probably what it is. And then CG. No, see, that looks like a matte painting there. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm imagining this plate looked like. Maybe even some of the people at the front here, they could have been CG. I doubt it though. I doubt it. You wouldn't do that. But the main shot I wanted to look at was this. That's why I didn't really come prepared for that last shot. I was just gonna do it on the fly. But this shot here, this is awesome. This is a mix of just great comp work overall. It's also a mix of great matte paintings. It's also a mix of great CG, great lighting. This whole shot is just bloody awesome. So obviously we have. This obviously isn't practical. Let's address the elephant in the room. This is not practical. This is not shot in camera. This group here, I'd be confident in saying this right here is probably the plate. Bam, bam, bam. Let's get a little bit neater of a line this time so we don't look crazy. Yeah, so that's probably what is actually in the plate. It maybe shot a lot closer too. And then everything else is either CG or matte painting. So I reckon for sure this mountain range here, if we go through, probably down to this stuff. Let's keep going around here. Yeah, that 100% is just regular matte painting. There's some extra stuff in. I don't know why you would bother making those mountains in CG unless we're going to see them from multiple angles. It doesn't look like that sort of thing. But even then, they're so far in the distance, you could just get the DMP artist to make a 360 image, like we were talking about last time with the city and stuff. Fantastic Four, and yeah, just have a 360 image that the compers use on all their shots. Like, it doesn't need to be CG, so I really doubt it was. The crowd, definitely CG, because they're moving, firstly. I reckon here, this line, maybe here, actually. You know what? Basically, this whole section here are probably pretty high fidelity 3D models. You know, like they're probably stuff they would use for digi-doubles and stuff like that. Maybe a little bit lower res. And then the further back you get, the worse they get. These back here, firstly, they're probably just nothing. This could even be a DMP. But like these ones here, if they have any movement at all, they're probably just like a Nintendo 64 character. Because they do that a lot in high-end VFX, where it's just like you're working on things that are so big and so like high concept sort of thing, where if you're doing it on a computer, you really need to be smart about how you achieve it, because otherwise it's not going to work. Like if you just went into this thinking, yeah, okay, I've got this one model for this soldier that I use for the digi-doubles and it's really high fidelity, it looks great, so if I have 2 million of them, it's going to look like an army. Firstly, you're not even going to be able to open your program. That's the first thing. you're gonna be waiting 10 years for it to load all those assets. But you're also never going to render a shot. So what they do is the ones where you can notice a difference, they make high fidelity and make sure they look good. And then the further back you get, or the more obscured they are, the more low quality the model is. That's why I always say, like, free assets online, 3D models, stuff from Mixamo, stuff from just Sketchfab, all that sort of stuff. If you're doing independent stuff, big CG shots like this, all of those models are great for background people, but as soon as one is like even slightly in focus, it loses. It loses all sort of fidelity. So it's the same sort of concept here, where it's like they would have really high fidelity ones for like close-up shots, so they could do full digital replacements. They would have sort of like a mid-tier, which would be no, not there, which would be this range, I'd imagine. So this would be like your mid-tier, and then these ones here would be, whoa, that is not a H. High fid instead of fidelity, because I can't be bothered writing. So yeah, that'd be mid, that'd be high, and then yeah, here backwards is like, it could even just be PNGs, dude. Like they are so nothing. It's really funny when you actually zoom in to see them, because I've done this before. I've worked on a couple of shots with crowd in like the far background, and it's so funny how bad it actually looks, which is intentional. Like I said, they're doing it the smartest way. because if you did it any other way, you wouldn't be able to get any shots out. We also have some really good comp work for the sort of dust flowing through and the different lighting and stuff like that. Some good simulation work on the flags here. Looks good. Everything just looks great. The one thing that does stick out is these buildings here. I can tell that they're just fully like rendered because they just have that look to them. And I don't know what it is, but it's the metal, the CG metal. It's something about it. I don't know. I hate to keep freaking, coming back to this, but you can just really tell, especially like really harsh lighting, like a desert environment. It's just, it's super obvious. So that's kind of the one downside to this shot, I'll say. Not even necessarily a downside. It's just like, okay, it makes it a bit noticeable. But all these shots here, all these buildings here is what I was meant to say. Definitely fully CG. So if we come around here, these ones here, which obviously they would need to be because, like with everything, you'd want it to be art directable, and you'd want to be able to go in and be like, okay, this is exactly the element. We want it to be consistent throughout everything, so it needs to be a CG element. And even if this was just a big matte painting shot, which it very well could be, as far as I know, they could take this plate section here that I drew out before, and everything else is a matte painting. I doubt it because of all the movement and stuff like that, but it could even be like this, and then everything sort of back here is a matte painting. But definitely feasible to say that everything from back here could be a matte painting because you wouldn't see any movement. So there onwards, that was a horrible arrow. What the hell? There backwards could be a matte painting because there's no parallax, there's no complex movement, there's no CG integration apart from the buildings. Because that's another misconception about matte painters is that they don't use CG, because they do, like, all the time. They have elements they need to incorporate. Obviously, it has to be done in CG, so they get the element, or they get a plate given to them by the CG artist, and then they integrate it into their matte painting. So, it is very possible that from here backwards is a matte painting. And if that's the case, that's super cool, because I love this shot. I just wish, I don't know if it's a texturing issue or a lighting issue, maybe even just the renderer they chose. I don't know what sort of the issue is. It could even be a comp issue. Maybe the compositor really wanted to bump those highlights and make it look shinier than it should be. I just wish the buildings looked a little less CG. But everything else, I think looks great. And now that we're done with the sort of matte painting section, because again, there's not much to actually break down without looking at a breakdown. And even then, studios like to put out these breakdowns that make it kind of look like they're doing less than they are. Whether it's intentional or not, I don't know. Because at the end of the day, a lot of comps on projects of this size, if you did every layer, just breaking down a single shot could be like 5 minutes, So it's not something that is feasible to expect from them, or reasonable to expect from them, I should say. But the breakdowns do betray us sometimes. And so there's not much really to talk about, especially with matte painting, because like I said, it's very underrated. It's not something that really gets talked about all that much. People just say, CG. It's kind of like comp. Comp doesn't get talked about as much. I feel like it has started to. I've seen more and more general people, like non-filmmaking people, talk about compositing, and that's cool. That's very cool. I like that, but it's still not talked about as much as it should be, considering how important of a step it is, because without it, you just have these pieces that are not put together. So, yeah, little bitty rant there, but I wanted to get onto this last scene for the episode, and it is the big raid scene. There's some nice effects work, some nice explosion comps. I looked at a couple last week, so I don't want to keep just doing explosions and the same sort of thing. But I wanted to show off some stuff here. Obviously, this would just be a full CG building with potentially matte painting, potentially practical. They seem to have shown a lot of the desert stuff practically, so I also wouldn't be surprised if this is just a practical. Plate, or even just an image. Could even just be a stock image. Who knows? And then they've just comped over it. But yeah, so we got this. Got this big explosion here. Looks great. Such a so cool. It's comped really well too, which is pretty rare. You don't see explosions that are comped well very often. They usually like the effects work is great, but it's comped really poorly, and then you end up with like something that just looks super CG. But let's go back. I thought there'd be way more explosions. So I'm misremembering this scene. So if we have a look at this, so you've got the shockwave, which is awesome. If we go back, got the shockwave, bam. You can see it travel across. That's very cool. Looks awesome. The exposure on this could no, I'd say that's pretty accurate. I was going to say it could be a little higher, but we are no, I don't know. It's kind of hard because it's a tricky time of day. It could either be brighter or it could either be darker, depending on their intention. Because if they just wanted to look at like the shot was underexposed to capture the explosion, you could do that because of the lighting. If they wanted to make it look like we were exposed for nighttime, so this was brightened up, then obviously this would need to be clipping everywhere. But you know the levels look good. The fidelity of it is great. I don't know the full anatomy of an explosion and the different fuel sources and like I understand like wind behaviors and stuff like that. But just looking at how everything is comped together, it looks great. It's the levels are good, the debris is cool, the dust like plumes are awesome. It's all just it looks sick. And especially when it like lights up these dunes here, it looks awesome. I'd imagine this is CG smoke. It's integrated flawlessly. It looks real. So if it is CG smoke, fantastic. Looks great. These ornithopters are sick. I'm not going to do a full breakdown, but yeah, they are sick. I really like the way they did them and the way they visualized their flying. I think it's awesome. All right, here we go. We've got some more bloody explosions to look at. So, firstly, we got some bloody missiles, which are cool. I like the mini explosion as the missiles start to ignite and then shoot off. That's very, very cool. This definitely is a full CG shot. Obviously, you got the CG ships, the missiles, the ground. Like, you wouldn't shoot this practically. You just want to do a CG so you can match the camera move. Easy. Same with this. You can also kind of tell this looks like a comp expo glow. This doesn't look like a natural sort of light leak. So I'd imagine this is full CG as well. Let's get onto the explosions. Yeah, there we go. So these explosions look fantastic. Again, I don't know the anatomy of an explosion. Realistically, I believe a missile hitting something like this would just be like a dust cloud. I don't think it would have all this fire, but the fire looks cool. And, you know, something like this, it's rule of cool over everything else. Now, I don't know how much this was prepped beforehand. I doubt much. Explosions are pretty standard. Obviously, when you get into things like the fight scene, like all this stuff where everything's covered in dust and the lighting is very particular and everything has to be super intentional. Obviously, all that is super planned out. If we just skip, here we go. Yeah, this is the cool stuff. Yeah. This is awesome. So obviously, that looks so good. So I love Expo Glow. That's one thing you know about me. I love chromatic aberration and I love exponential glow. Fantastic. But yeah, so we got this. Ooh. It's just for one frame, but I don't know about this roto shape. This doesn't look very accurate. It would more be up here because the source of light is this explosion. There's no source of light here. But then you get to this and that's the source of light. So it doesn't really matter. But I like how it's super obscured. Like it looks almost like it's clipping and and you've clamped it down in Nuke. That's kind of what this looks like. It's more of that like grayish sort of washed out look. It's not a highlight, and then bam, bam, just white in your face. It's so cool. I love it. I also like how they've integrated all this. I'd imagine this would be. You can pretty easily get this effect before the explosion, this dust sort of effect, um, with like a depth map of some sort, and just use some grading and put some elements in there. Like chances are it's all just rotor. Like someone's rotored, or multiple people have come in and rotored all those characters and the ground and all that sort of stuff, so that then the compo can come in and slice them apart and put elements in between them, like smoke elements and stuff like that, just to build up that density of the sand and debris and smoke and stuff. That's the realistic answer, but again, bringing it back to AI a little bit, with things like AI depth maps and stuff, you could easily do something like this and get a very similar sort of really dense, smoky look. It's just that right now AI depth maps suck, but they suck so much. Oh my god. Don't use them. Don't use them for at least another few years. Then you get, really cool takeoff scene. Does anything else happen? I don't think so. He's taken off. Got some cool explosions. Nothing we haven't seen. Oh yeah, and then this was very cool. I liked this. I would be very curious to see how this was shot, to be honest. The simple answer is just either on a sand screen, like we were talking about before, or a green screen or blue screen, depending on how seriously they wanted to take this. I'd imagine it was a sand screen. It seems like everything was that. And then you just like hoist this up, have some harnesses. It seems fairly straightforward, but yeah, the way it's executed is so good, especially on a shot like that. Like realistically, I reckon this is probably. So the background is obviously just full CG. Maybe the very background plate, like of all the sand dunes and stuff, maybe that's like a helicopter shot or a drone shot. But I'd imagine that the plate is kind of just something like this. Yeah, something like that. Potentially this whole section here they would have built, but I think everything else is just fully CG. Obviously the ship is. The background potentially could be, or it could be like a drone shot or something that they come into the back. All the sky and stuff is definitely at least replaced in comp. But yeah, I think I'd be safe to assume that this is the plate, or maybe even like something like this. Like, this could all just be like I say green screen, but I mean, it could be a sand screen, like I was saying before. Green screen is just the go-to. And so they could, that could be as simple as that. And the way the CG team have been able to match that movement, and then the comp team have been able to put that in there, that's just so cool. I don't know. That's how I would shoot the shot, is I would shoot that as its own thing, obviously, and then comp it into just fully CG everything else. But then when you look at like the way the movement is, like whether that's an in-camera movement to get the realistic motion blur and stuff, because you can see here, it looks a little funky. Like it looks maybe like something that's being translated, but then there's some moves like this, for example, that's just fully a camera move, either a camera move or it's being hoisted up on like a mechanism of some sort. And because that's just a fully different camera position than it was before. There are some moments, like I said, where it looks a little bit like a manual rotation, but other than that, it's just so cool. I'd be very interested to see how that was shot, because I don't actually know. So that would be very cool to bloody deep dive into. Okay, what's this little shot here? It's like a little gunshot thing. Let's have a squiz. Ooh, that doesn't look great, does it? Okay, I mean, it's only there for like 6 frames or something. Oh, a bit more than that, but it fades out. And it's not bad. I don't know, something about that tracking is just way off. Like, it hits her on the shoulder, and then it jumps around. And you can see there is a little bit of a glow there. Yeah, okay. Okay, they did think of that, thankfully. So it jumps around because she moves, and then it goes down. It's not as bad. Oh, yeah. See, something like that. It's her legs clipping through it, but it's fine. It does its job. Nothing crazy. And then I love that face he's making. That's very funny. I like that. I don't know about that. I don't know about that laser effect. That's just me, though. I'm very particular with lasers. They either can look fantastic or they look really bad. And I don't know. This one is not doing it for me. But it's so quick. Like, I'm being so nitpicky. Like, look at how quick it is in the actual shot. Watch this. Bam. It's done. So, like, it doesn't matter. It's, like, literally the most inconsequential thing about everything we've looked at today. But, it's just something that didn't really sit well with me. Even though I didn't notice it till just then. But, yeah, such a cool sequence. I'd say it nearly rivals the sequence in the first movie where they're fighting at nighttime. That's such a cool sequence. I love that so much. But, yeah, that's probably all we have time for this episode. Dude, this is what I mean. Like, I have to stop myself. I could easily just look at more scenes and look at, like, the whole movie even and just break down so much of it. Like, I just love theorizing. I love looking into it. I love looking at the VFX breakdowns. That's definitely something I'm going to do more from now on, for sure. I'm definitely going to get some VFX breakdowns sorted and ready to go because I really, really, really found that fun, theorizing about it, and then seeing the actual VFX breakdown. I thought that was super cool. So I'm probably going to do that a lot more. Expect more of that. But for now, thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys learned something. And I hope to see you guys next time. This has been the Dune movies, or a very small portion of them. Again, just trying to keep this less than 2 hours because, that's a bit much. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.